Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tales, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag too late. Now, let's get into today's tale. Have you ever stood in a room full of people who share your last name and realized not one of them would hesitate to trade your life for money? My name is Rachel. I'm 34 years old, a lab technician, and a single mom to the brightest little girl. I know Luna. We used to live in Oregon, in a small town with quiet roads and neighbors who waved when you passed by. It was the kind of place where you think nothing bad can ever really happen. But let me tell you something. Evil doesn't always come in the form of strangers. Sometimes, it comes with a warm smile, holding a picnic basket. This story isn't just about betrayal. It's about survival. Not just surviving the fall, but surviving the realization that your own family had been planning it for months. All for a $3 million insurance payout that required me and my daughter to disappear permanently. Cough pause music dips briefly. Over the next 30 minutes, I'll tell you how we went from a mother and daughter duo who just wanted a peaceful life to becoming the key witnesses in a criminal trial that tore a seemingly perfect family apart, and how we found something even stronger than blood, a new beginning, chosen love, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. It all started on a Tuesday morning, just like any other. The sun was barely up when I slipped on my scrubs and tied my hair into a bun. Luna sat at the kitchen counter, legs swinging, trying to peel a sticker off her lunchbox. She looked up and grinned. "Mommy, guess what? I made a song in music class yesterday. Want to hear?" I nodded, smiling, as I packed her apple slices. That's how our mornings always began. Just me, her, and 100 tiny moments that made motherhood feel like magic. I had no idea that behind those quiet routines, my husband, my sister, even my parents were already counting the days to make us vanish. You know, if you had met me a year ago, you probably wouldn't have looked twice. I was just another tired face on the morning commute. A woman in scrubs with a coffee in one hand and a lunchbox in the other, waving goodbye to her daughter before the school bell rang. My name is Rachel. I'm 34, a lab technician at a small, private medical center in Oregon. It's not a glamorous job. I spend most days sorting blood samples, running tests, and labeling urine containers. But it gave me something I valued deeply: order, purpose, and peace. And every afternoon, no matter how long the day was, I picked up my daughter Luna from school. That moment, when she'd run into my arms with her backpack swinging and her face lit up from music class or recess, that was my daily miracle. She's 6, full of questions and light, and somehow manages to carry my eyes in her father's soft curls like she invented them. Mark, my husband, used to be my safe place. He worked in real estate and traveled often. We met young, built our life slow and steady. For years, it felt like we were writing the story we'd always dreamed of. The house, the baby, the future. But dreams can fade quietly, like paint chipping, behind a curtain you haven't drawn in years. Lately, Mark was always gone, always somewhere, always busy. He'd come home late, kiss the top of Luna's head without looking up, and tap on his phone through dinner. The warmth between us had thinned so gradually that I couldn't even remember the last time he looked at me and saw me. Still, I told myself, this is normal. Every marriage has quiet seasons. Maybe we're just tired. I didn't realize it then, but I was living inside a house made of glass. From the outside, everything looked fine, peaceful even. But inside, tiny cracks were forming, and I was too busy surviving to notice how fast they were spreading. Sometimes we ignore the early signs because we don't want to believe that the people we love most could hurt us. But silence can be dangerous. It's where secrets grow roots. When the people closest to you stop seeing you, really seeing you, it's time to look closer. Because sometimes, being invisible is the first step toward being erased. And that's when I started noticing other things too. Not just in Mark, but in my mother's cautious glances, in my sister Tara's strange questions, and in the quiet whispers that my daughter Luna began repeating. That's where the story truly begins. Growing up, I always believed that family was supposed to be your shelter, the place you return to when the world gets too loud. I believed that about my parents, about my older sister Tara. They weren't perfect, but they were mine. My mom, Irene, baked cookies with Luna every Sunday. My dad, Gerald, taught her how to whistle with acorns in the backyard. And Tara? Well, she was the type of woman who lit up every room she walked into. 5 years older than me, a marketing director in Seattle, always polished, always perfect. She never married, no kids, no messy laundry or sticky juice cups. She used to call me the responsible one. I think she meant it as a compliment. But something shifted. Slowly, quietly, like a room that had once been warm going cold without you noticing. It started with my mom. She used to cuddle Luna for hours, watching cartoons and braiding her curls. Lately, she'd flinch a little when Luna reached for her hand. Not cruel, just distant. As if she were guarding herself from something she couldn't say out loud. Then came dinner at my parents' house. Sunday tradition. Dad had just pulled his ribs off the grill when Tara looked up from her phone, smiled and said, "Have you ever thought Luna might do better somewhere else? Maybe in Seattle. Private school's better. Opportunities. I mean, you're busy and Mark's always gone. I could take her for a few months." Her tone was light, polished, almost rehearsed. I stared at her, frozen. Luna was sitting right there, drawing in her sketchbook, 6 years old, and somehow, my sister was talking about her like she was an application that needed rerouting. I didn't answer. Couldn't. But that night, while brushing Luna's hair in the bath, she looked up at me and asked, "Mom, would you be sad if I didn't live with you anymore?" My heart stopped. "Who told you that, baby?" She shrugged, tracing her finger through the bubbles. "Grandma's friend's granddaughter said I'd go live with someone named V. She didn't finish, but I didn't need her to. Tara." That night, lying awake in the dark while Luna slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and felt the first real fear settle into my bones. Something wasn't right, not just with Mark, not just with Tara, but with all of them, together. It's one thing to feel unseen. It's another to realize the people who say they love you might already be planning life without you in it. Family isn't just who you share a name with. It's who fights for your place in the room, even when you're not there to defend yourself. I didn't know it yet, but that question, Luna's question, wasn't just a child's innocent fear. It was the first puzzle piece. And the thing about red flags? They rarely wave in the wind like warning signs. They show up as whispers, gut feelings, small, quiet moments that seem off, but you can't quite explain why. And for me, it started with a glass cabinet reflection. 3 days after that dinner, Mark came home late again. It was past 10 p.m. I was still at the kitchen table. Luna had long been asleep. The dinner I made had gone cold. He walked in, loosened his tie, and gave me the same line I'd heard too many times to count. "Sorry, client meeting ran late." I didn't respond. I just stood, reheated his food, and sat back down across from him. He scrolled through his phone as he chewed, never once looking at me. But then he turned slightly to answer a text, and, in the reflection of the glass cabinet behind him, I saw a name flash across his screen. V, callback. My stomach tightened. Maybe it could have been anyone. Maybe I was overthinking. But in that split second, everything connected. Distance, the secrecy, The way he barely blinked when Luna showed him her drawings, the late nights, the weekend site visits, the unexplained silence when I entered a room. I didn't confront him that night. Not because I was afraid, but because sometimes silence tells you more than confrontation ever could. The next day, when I picked Luna up from school, her teacher pulled me aside. She spoke in that soft, careful tone educators use when they're not sure how much to say. Luna mentioned she's having trouble sleeping. She said someone told her she might have to move away from you soon. "Rachel, is everything okay at home?" I forced a smile, nodded, and promised to check in. But inside, I was unraveling. And still, I kept quiet. Not because I didn't care, but because I was trying to gather truth before lighting a match. That night, I called my mother. "Mom, has Tara said anything strange about Luna lately?" There was a pause. Then her voice, measured, polite, almost tired. "She's just talking about the future, Jess. She thinks Luna deserves a better school. She wants to help." That word again. Help. Funny how quickly that word can turn sharp in your mouth when it's being used to take something from you. I wanted to scream. Luna is not a project, not a problem to be solved. She's my daughter. But I didn't scream. I just said, "No one has the right to talk about her future except me." My mother sighed. "You're a good mom, honey, but you're stretched thin. Mark's always gone. Tara's just trying to help." It was then I realized this wasn't just about concern. This was a narrative, a carefully crafted story I wasn't part of writing. When people start rewriting your life without asking, you're not just being left out, you're being replaced. 2 days later, Tara showed up at my house with 2 lattes and a bag full of children's clothes. And what she said next was the moment I stopped wondering if I was overreacting and started. With help from my attorney and a survivor support group, I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to in over 10 years, Grace. She was a high school friend now living in a small town in Colorado. When I called, I didn't even have to explain much. She just said, "Come here, stay as long as you need." So we did. Evergreen Valley welcomed us in early spring. The snow was still clinging to the edges of the trees, but tiny green shoots were already pushing through the earth, like hope, showing up before you're even sure it should. Grace lived in a cozy cabin just outside town with her husband and 2 kids. Luna slept through the night for the first time in months. There, I cried quietly the next morning, not from fear but from relief. I started working part-time at a local clinic. Dr. Caroline, the owner, an older woman with a sharp voice but soft eyes, sat me down on the first day and said, "I don't need to know your past, but I can see you've been through something. People who've lived through storms tend to listen better. You've got a job here if you want it." And I did. The sound of blood pressure monitors, the scent of antiseptic, the rhythm of routines, they grounded me, gave me a sense of control. Again. Luna enrolled in a small school just down the road. At first she was shy, quiet, sat alone at recess, but a few weeks in, her teacher called me. She drew a picture today of a little girl holding hands with a woman under the sun. I asked who it was. She said, "That's me and my mom," because we walked through the dark and we found the light. That was the moment I realized we weren't just surviving anymore. We were living. A few months later, at a parent meeting, I met David Clark, Luna's principal. Kind, the kind of person who makes space for others just by being there. After the meeting, as I fumbled with Luna's backpack, stuck in a door hinge, he smiled and said, "You're Luna's mom, right? She's a remarkable kid, and just so you know, no one here needs your backstory, just your presence." We started talking more after that. Small conversations, long walks, coffee in quiet corners. He never asked about my scars. He just listened when I was ready to speak and stayed silent when I wasn't. On Luna's 8th birthday, we had a tiny backyard party. Grace invited the neighbors, my coworkers, and even David. I watched through the window as he knelt to help Luna tie her scarf back around her neck, his hands gentle, his voice soft. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel left behind. After the guests left, David handed me a small envelope. It's from the school. Nothing big, just a book voucher and some movie tickets. We like to do something small for kids who've been through a lot. I took it, my fingers shaking slightly. Do you think, I asked him, that family can be something we build, not just something we're born into? He didn't answer right away. He just looked at me, and in his eyes was every answer I'd ever needed. That night, as I tucked Luna into bed, she whispered, "Mom, can I call Mr. David? Uncle? He's kind. He belongs to us." I kissed her forehead. "You can call him anything you want, sweetheart, as long as you feel safe and loved. Family isn't made of blood. It's made of choice, of the people who stay, who see you, not as a burden, but as a blessing. We lost so much, but we found something stronger, something real. And for the first time in my life, I finally believe we are free. Thank you, truly, for staying with me until the end of the story." Rachel's journey wasn't just about surviving a betrayal. It was about reclaiming her voice, her daughter, and her future. And if there's one lesson I hope you carry with you, it's this. Family isn't always who shares your blood. Sometimes, it's who holds your hand in the dark and never lets go, even when the world turns its back. Love, real, chosen love, can still find a way in. I'd love to hear what this story meant to you. What did you feel? What part stayed with you the most? Leave a comment below and share your heart. You never know who might need to read your words today. And if this story moved you even a little, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There are more stories to tell, more hearts to reach, and I'd be honored if you joined us for the next one. Until then, take care of yourself and take care of the people who truly see you, people who truly preparing to fight back soon. I'd start seeing the rest of them fall into place. 2 days after that call with my mother, Tara showed up at my doorstep. It was just past noon. I had just gotten home from the lab, still in my scrubs, hair tied, back. Keys barely set on the table when the doorbell rang. She stood there, bright smile, full makeup, 2 perfectly foamed lattes in hand, and a glossy shopping bag that read, "Mini Style Maven." "I picked up a few things for Luna," she said, brushing past me like she owned the space. "There's this purple dress I thought she'd love. Oh, and look, matching shoes." She set the bag down and slid a coffee across the counter, like nothing. It was strange, but everything felt strange. I didn't touch the cup. I didn't even glance inside the bag. Instead, I looked her straight in the eye. "What are you doing, Tara?" She blinked, just for a second, then gave that laugh people use when they're pretending you're being silly. "What do you mean? I'm just spoiling my niece and trying to convince everyone she'd be better off with you." That wiped the smile clean off her face. She set her cup down just a little too hard. "Rachel, you're overreacting." "Am I?" She crossed her arms, voice still silky but colder now. "Do you know how much pressure Mark's under? How tired Mom and Dad are? We're all just thinking of what's best for Luna." Then let her stay with her mother. There was a pause, a flicker in her expression, and then a smile I didn't recognize. Tilted, hollow, almost smug. "If you think being a mother means you get to decide everything, you're mistaken." Her words didn't sound like concern. They sounded like a plan. That night, while tucking Luna into bed, I kissed her forehead and tried not to let her see how fast my heart was beating. I stayed up late, sitting in the quiet, thinking about all the things that didn't make sense, but suddenly fit together. Then, the next morning, my mother called. Her voice was cheerful. Too cheerful. "We're planning a little family picnic this weekend, sweetheart, up at Crater Ridge. The leaves are changing. Luna's going to love it." Crater Ridge? My family had never been outdoorsy. Not once. In my entire childhood had we driven 2 hours for a hike. And now, in October, suddenly they were excited about nature. "Tara's coming too," Mom continued. "Your dad's already packed the lunch. You just need to bring you and Luna." I didn't even get a chance to answer before Luna overheard. She jumped up from the couch, practically glowing. "Mom, can we go, please? I'll bring my magnifying glass. Maybe I'll find a red leaf shaped like a heart." And in that moment, how could I say no? She was 6. She was still innocent, still believed the world was good and people meant what they said. I smiled and nodded, brushing a curl behind her ear. "Okay, baby, we'll go." That night, I told Mark. He barely looked up from his laptop. "Saturday, I've got a site visit. Probably won't make it." I wasn't surprised, but I asked anyway. "Mark, do you feel like something's changed in our family?" He hesitated, just for a moment, then went back to his screen. "You're probably overthinking. A little fresh air might do you some good. Maybe. Or maybe the air was the only honest thing left when something feels off. Listen, even if everyone else tells you it's fine, especially when the people smiling at you are the ones handing you the map. So I packed the snacks, the water, the bandages, because my job had made me cautious by habit. And Saturday morning, when that car pulled up in front of my house, I held Luna's hand, took a breath, and stepped in. Not knowing I was walking into a plan that had never been said out loud, but had already been written. That Saturday morning, the air was crisp, the kind that nips at your cheeks just enough to remind you that fall had truly arrived. Luna wore her green beanie, her little magnifying glass swinging on a string like a detective on a mission. I packed peanut butter sandwiches, fruit, water bottles, even tucked a few bandages and antiseptic wipes into the side pocket of my backpack. Caution had become second nature. My parents' car pulled up right on time. Dad was driving, Mom in the passenger seat. Tara sat in the back, already in her hiking gear, sleek and new. The kind you wear when you want to look like you hike, not when you actually do. Luna and I slid in next to her. I smiled, but inside, every nerve was alert. The drive felt longer than 2 hours, or maybe it was just the silence. The kind of silence where everyone's saying something, but no one's using words. We reached Crater Ridge just before noon. The trail was quiet. Almost too quiet. Sunlight filtered through the trees in ribbons, as if nature was trying to distract us with beauty. Eventually, Dad pulled the car into a small clearing. "From here," he said, "it's a 20-minute walk to the best view in the valley. No one in the family's been there yet." I glanced around. No picnic basket, no blanket, no real food, just a couple of water bottles tossed in a mesh bag. No compass, no map. That wasn't a picnic. It was a setup. Still, I said nothing. We started walking. Luna skipped ahead, stopping every few steps to point out leaves and rocks shaped like hearts or animals. I tried to keep my voice calm. "Stay close, sweetheart." At one point, Tara slowed down to match my pace. She adjusted her sunglasses and said, almost casually, "Have you ever thought about sending Luna to boarding school?" I stopped walking. "No, and I don't plan to." I shrugged. Life changes fast, Jess. There are some things you just can't control forever. It wasn't what she said. It was the way she said it, like someone reading the next line of a script they'd already rehearsed a few steps ahead. A few steps ahead, Luna called back, "Mom, there's a high spot up here. You can see the whole mountain." And just beyond her, The trail opened into a wide ledge overlooking the valley. It was stunning, quiet, almost too perfect. Then I saw it. My mother gave Tara a look, a signal, just a flick of her eyes. I felt it in my chest, like a cold hand closing around my ribs. My dad pointed to a rocky outcrop just beyond the main ledge. "That spot there," he said. "That's where the view really opens up." I tightened my grip on Luna's hand. Tara stepped closer. She placed a hand on my shoulder, light but firm. "Jess, just for a second, I need to show you something." I pulled away. "Don't touch me." Then I saw my father bend down and scoop Luna into his arms. "Grandpa, did you see the eagle?" she said, giggling. "Of course, sweetheart. Come, I'll show you." He began walking toward the edge. Time slowed. "Put her down," I shouted, voice cracking. I stepped forward, but before I could move, I felt a hard shove from behind. My mother. I stumbled, nearly lost my footing. My hands flailed until one caught a branch jutting from the rock. Tara stepped closer, voice calm and cold. "It'll be over quickly, Jess. You won't feel a thing." My eyes locked on Luna, still in my father's arms, still smiling. I couldn't. "Breathe! She's your granddaughter!" I screamed, but his face didn't even flicker. "She won't remember any of this." And in that moment, I stopped thinking. Moved. I hurled myself forward, arms reaching, heart pounding. I grabbed Luna's legs and pulled with everything I had. My father lost his balance. The next second was wind, screaming. I wrapped my arms around Luna like a shield. Branches scraped us. Rocks tore into my back, my shoulder, my legs. But I didn't let go. "Mommy!" she cried into the air. I didn't answer. I just held her tighter, because if this was how our story ended, I was going to make sure she made it to the last page. When everything breaks apart, when the world throws you off the edge, the only thing that matters is who you're holding on to. We didn't die. But the fall wasn't the end. It was just the start of a much longer climb. Before we go any further, I want to pause here and ask you something from the heart. If you were in Rachel's shoes, if the people you trusted most led you to the edge of a cliff, would you still believe in second chances? Would you ever be able to forgive? Or would survival be enough? Let me know in the comments. What did this part of the story make you feel? Heartbreak? Rage? Hope? Something else entirely? Your voice matters. And sometimes, just saying how you feel can help someone else feel a little less alone. Let me take you now to what happened after the fall, when Rachel realized surviving the drop was only the beginning. Forest. Earth. Above us. Trees stretched up like silent witnesses. The air was still, not peaceful, but watchful. I kept Luna close as long as I could. Tried not to move too much. Every shift sent a jolt through my body, especially my leg. My wrist was badly swollen too, probably broken. I looked at her and tried to smile. She looked back, her lip trembling. "Mom, are they coming back?" I shook my head. "They think we're gone." And then, just faintly, we heard them. Voices from the top of the ridge. "Do you see anything?" My mother's voice. "No, not moving." My father replied, "Good. No one comes out here. No one's going to find them," Tara added. Luna's breath caught. I pressed my hand gently over her mouth. She understood instantly. She buried her face into my shirt, silent. As I lay there, listening to the people I once called family walk away from the cliff, I felt something shift in me. Something deep. Not just pain. Not even fear. Vague. Not the kind that explodes, but the kind that burns quietly. The kind that sharpens you. They had made a plan. They thought they could take everything. our lives, our story, our worth, and hide it under forest leaves and silence. But they hadn't counted on this part, that we would survive, that we would remember, that we would speak, and maybe, most importantly, that Luna would understand. Because after they were gone, she looked at me again, her voice barely a whisper. "I think I know what they're doing. They're doing. I wasn't." "What do you mean, baby?" she sniffled. I heard Aunt Tara talking to Daddy behind the rose bushes. Once she said, "It'll all be over soon. We just need Mom to say yes to the picnic." Daddy said, "Just do what we planned. The insurance money's coming." That hit me harder than the fall. They hadn't just wanted us gone. They'd calculated it. They'd written our erasure into a $3 million payout. And my daughter had been the one to hear it. Kids understand more than we think. They see what we miss. They carry what we can't. And sometimes, they're the very reason we keep standing. I didn't know how we were going to get out. My leg was barely usable. My wrist, too. Our phone had flown somewhere during the fall. Gone. But I knew this. I still had one good hand. I still had my mind. And I still had Luna. And that was enough. They say survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about choosing to keep moving, even when every part of you wants to stop. That afternoon, lying at the bottom of that cliff, I made a decision. I wasn't going to die there. Not like that. Not on their terms. I looked down at Luna, her face pale but alert, her hands still clutching my shirt. "Sweetheart," I said softly, "I can't walk well, but you can. If you find a path, you have to promise to be careful, okay?" Her eyes welled with tears. "No, I'm not leaving you." And she meant it. 6 years old, bruised, frightened, exhausted, and still standing by my side without question. I smiled, though my face ached to do it. "Then we'll do it together." I snapped off a branch, using it as a crutch. And slowly, inch by inch, we started climbing away from the place where they left us. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't fast, but it was steady. Luna walked just ahead, her tiny hand wrapped around mine, guiding me like I was the child, and she was the protector. Every step was fire in my bones. My right leg may be broken, my wrist throbbing, my head still spinning, but we kept going. Because sometimes the only thing stronger than fear is love. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. No trail markers, no signs. Just the soft crunch of leaves beneath our feet, and the sound of Luna's small voice whispering, "We're almost out, Mommy." We walked for what felt like hours. Maybe it was. Time gets strange when you're pushing through pain with no end in sight. But finally, around a bend near a shallow creek, we saw something. A small orange tent. 2 people. An elderly couple setting up camp. The woman gasped when she saw us. I must have looked like something out of a horror story. Bloodied, limping, with a child holding me up. She rushed toward us, dropping what she was holding. "Can you hear me?" her husband called out. I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. No words, just a breath. And then, everything blurred. I remember Luna holding my hand. I remember her telling the paramedics in her calmest voice, "My Mommy saved me." Then, darkness. The kind that finally lets you rest. Survival isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to take just one more step. Sometimes it's a child refusing to leave your side. And sometimes it's trusting that someone out there, even a stranger, will care enough to help. 3 days later, I woke up in a hospital bed. My arm in a cast, my leg bandaged and elevated, cuts and bruises everywhere. But the first thing I saw was Luna sleeping in the chair next to me, still holding my hand. And next to her, a man in plain clothes, calm presence, Teddy voice. Detective Callahan. Rachel, I'm here to help, but I need you to tell me what happened. And just like that, it was time to speak, not just to survive, but to finally be heard. When I opened my eyes in that hospital room, the first thing I saw was Luna. Her tiny frame curled in a chair beside me, hair tangled, cheeks still dotted with healing bruises. She was asleep, her small hand still wrapped around mine. She never let go. Beside her sat a man with kind eyes and a calm, quiet presence. Detective Callahan. He introduced himself gently and told me what no part of me was ready to hear, but every part of me needed to. Rachel, I need to ask you some questions. You don't have to rush, but we believe this wasn't an accident. He nodded, because I already knew that. And so, I told him everything. The strange suggestion from Tara, the looks from my mother, the client meetings Mark never explained, the trip to Crater Ridge no one had ever planned out loud. I spoke slowly, through cracked lips and tear-blurred eyes, but I didn't hold anything back. And when I finished, when I finally breathed through the weight of it all, Detective Callahan closed his notebook, leaned forward and said, "There's something you need to know." He opened a file and pointed to a section already highlighted. 4 months ago, your husband updated your life insurance policy, increased the payout to $3 million. He listed himself as the sole beneficiary. I stared at the paper, his name, his signature. And the witness listed. Callahan continued. Your sister, Tara G. Miller. I felt my chest tighten, but it didn't end there. 1 week before the trip, we traced a large transfer of funds from your mother's bank account to your husband's, $500,000. Memo line said, "Final payment for the plan." I looked away, eyes burning. My family, my parents, my sister, my husband, the people who were supposed to protect me, had spent months calculating my absence down to the dollar. The deepest betrayals often come from those we once believed would never hurt us, but once truth finds light, it can't be buried again. Detective Callahan met my gaze. We're issuing federal warrants, but we don't know where Mark and Tara are yet. His car was found near a private airstrip. The flight was canceled at the last minute. We think he got spooked. I didn't say anything. I just looked at Luna, still sleeping, still breathing. We had survived the unthinkable. Now, I had to make sure we were never erased again. A few days later, I was moved to a secure recovery room. Luna, still under protective care, came in holding the hand of a social worker. She ran to my bedside and whispered, "Mommy." I told Detective Callahan everything I remembered. "You gave a statement?" She nodded. I told them about the rose bushes, about what Aunt Tara said to Daddy and what Grandma said on the phone. Callahan entered the room behind her, smiling gently. "Rachel, your daughter is sharp. She remembered names, even how they phrased it. And that's when I realized Luna hadn't just survived the fall. She was the reason the truth would rise from it." 8 months after the fall, I wheeled into the Oakfield County Courthouse, with my daughter beside me and truth burning in my chest. My arm was still in a brace. My leg hadn't fully healed. But I wasn't there to be pitied. I was there to be heard. Luna wore a pale blue dress, her favorite color. She held my hand tightly as cameras flashed from across the street. Whispers filled the courthouse lobby. Strangers staring, neighbors whispering, because no one expected this. No one ever expects the family with matching sweaters at Christmas to be capable of attempted murder, but the truth doesn't care about how perfect things look. I took our seats. Mark walked in first. Gray suit, blank stare. He didn't look at me, not once. Tara followed. Hair tied neatly, lips tight. Her eyes skating past me like I wasn't even real. And then my parents, Gerald and Irene, heads low, shoulders slumped. No apology in their eyes, just shame dressed up as silence. I'd grown up with that silence. But now, it was my turn to speak. The prosecutor's voice rang clear as he laid out everything. The forged insurance policy, the wire transfers, the text messages from Mark's burner phone, the recorded phone call between my parents and Mark, the pre-arranged hiking accident and the plan to collect $3 million, fact after fact, each one like a stone laid down on the path toward justice. Justice. When they called me to the stand, I took a deep breath. The courtroom went still, and I told them what happened. The picnic, the ledge, the fall, the silence at the bottom of the ravine, the moment I decided I wasn't going to die. I didn't cry. My voice didn't shake. They didn't just betray me, I said. They erased me. They tried to make me disappear, but I didn't, and I never will. Then they played Luna's pre-recorded video. Her voice was small, but strong. Aunt Tara said, "Mommy wouldn't be here anymore if everything went right." I was scared, but I trusted Mommy. She held me the whole time. She's a good person. And just like that, the courtroom wasn't a courtroom anymore. It was a mirror, and every single person had to look at what they tried to pretend didn't exist. The defense, Mark, stood up and tried to twist the story. I was pushed into a corner. Rachel always controlled everything. I just wanted freedom. Tara. He said nothing. My parents. My father mumbled, "We just thought she didn't deserve that kind of life." No apology, no remorse. Just a weak excuse from people who had once rocked me to sleep. Sometimes justice doesn't give you closure, but it gives you clarity, and that's enough. The judge read the verdicts. Mark Carter and Tara Miller, 25 years for attempted murder, conspiracy, and fraud. Gerald and Irene Miller, 15 years for conspiracy and child endangerment. No parole. No contact. When it was over, people I didn't even know came up to us. Neighbors, nurses, strangers, hugging me, thanking me. One woman whispered, "You survived." For those of us who couldn't speak, I didn't say much. I just bent down, held Luna close, and whispered, "We did it. Now it's time to live." After the verdict, Luna and I didn't go back to our old home. We couldn't. And honestly, we didn't want to. The police recommended we stay under witness protection until all threats were cleared. But more than safety, we needed peace. A real, honest chance to breathe. To begin again. Begin again.